Hi, it's Miss Lynn and Farmer Larry at Fern Valley Farm, and today we're making Polish donuts called Paczkis, and they are filled with raspberry sauce. We made an alternate custard sauce to go with it, just in case you want a second filling. Oh my gosh, can't wait to show you how we did it. So this story begins with a little history lesson. I know cooking has a lot of history. Now, you may not know it, but Farmer Larry is actually from Wisconsin, north. I'm from Georgia, and we met in California. But part of his heritage is German-Polish. So a lot of his relatives immigrated to Wisconsin from Germany or from Poland, or a mixture of the two. So today we're going to make a Polish fantasy called Paczkis. It's a type of pastry, and the history behind that is, back in the old days, way long time ago, the Catholics and the religious people in Europe, days before Lent started, there's such a thing called Ash Wednesday. Many of you know about Ash Wednesday, and that's when Lent begins before Easter. But right the day before Ash Wednesday was Fat Tuesday. Fat Tuesday is what we attribute to Mardi Gras, but in Poland it was called Paczki Day. And what that means is, once Lent started, the religious people in Europe had to fast, which means they had to give up all sweets, they had to give up all meats, they gave up all fruits, basically a lot of the tasty good stuff. So the day before they fasted, if they had lard, or in their version of butter, or sweets, or those types of things, they had to use them up very quickly because they didn't have refrigeration. So the day before Fat Tuesday, they would start making these pastries and use up all their sweet things that they could not eat during Lent. And so they made this wonderful donut, and then they would kind of gluttonize on these donuts. And so this is the donut we're making today to celebrate Larry's Polish history. We're a little behind. This year Fat Tuesday was on February 16th, and it's past that date, but we're still gonna eat a couple of things. So nowadays we give up different things for Lent, but back in the old days they gave up food, a lot of times fasting. So here's how we're going to make it. Are you ready? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to modify this recipe just a little bit. I have to be gluten-free, so we are going to use this fabulous new gluten-free flour that I have discovered. It's made by GF Jules, and if you cook a lot and you're gluten-free, you know that you can't just substitute gluten-free flour for all-purpose flour or cake flour, any of the things. It just doesn't have the elasticity that you need to bake with. So Jules, from this company, created this wonderful gluten-free flour that's a mixture of many different types of flour, so you can substitute it one for all-purpose flour. So today we're going to prove her right. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add all our dry ingredients together, and we're going to aerate our flour, which just means we're going to sift it up and add some air to it, mix it nice and fluffy. So we're going to have 1 cup, we'll put it right in our sifter. Woo! Hopefully it doesn't spill everywhere. 1.5 cups of this special gluten-free flour we're so excited to use. We're going to do 1/4 cup of sugar, and you can just put that right on top, because we're going to just filter this all together, or sift this all together. And we're going to do 1/4 teaspoon of salt, which, you know, you could do with your hands, but you can measure it as well. So 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And we're just going to sift that all together with our little crank sifter, yes. And all that does, I don't know if you can get a shot of that down here, but all that does is it just aerates that flour, so it's just a little bit fluffier. So when you mix it all together, it's going to change the consistency just a little bit. If you don't have a sifter like this, you can use any kind of mesh, sieve. How do you say that word?
Sieve.
Sieve, thank you. And to mix it up, or just take a whisk and whisk it together. So there it is, all fluffy and beautiful. Can you take a look? Yes. So we're going to put that, and then we're going to put that in our bowl. So go ahead and pour it in. Get that bowl off, it makes it easier. And then the last thing we're going to do, the last dry ingredient, is going to be our flour. Now you want to use active dry yeast. Sorry, the last thing we're going to use is our yeast, which is really important. So we're either going to use instant yeast or active dry yeast. Now you can buy this in packets. We buy it in big containers because we make a lot of bread around here. So I'm going to get that out, and we're going to put in 2 teaspoons, which is the same as 1 packet. 2 teaspoons of yeast right on the top. So those are our dry ingredients, and we're gonna mix those up. So we just mixed up our dry ingredients so the yeast is incorporated a little bit. Then we're gonna put all our wet ingredients in. And here's a little tip you need to know. We're gonna put 2/3 cup of milk in. And what you wanna do is warm up the milk because this is gonna activate the yeast. You wanna warm it up, use a thermometer. It should be at least 110 degrees. Don't get it super hot, but at least 110 degrees so it'll activate. We're pouring the 2/3 cup warmed milk. We've got 2 egg yolks at room temperature. Now don't forget to put these at room temperature. And here's what I had to do. I had to carry them around for a few minutes in my hand to get them to room temperature. You don't want them chilled, you want them just be room temperature. So we'll put those 2 egg yolks only in. Then we're gonna add in our vegetable oil. We've got 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil we're gonna add in. 2 egg yolks, 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil. Let me see. 1, count with me. I have to count and concentrate because otherwise I forget where I am. 2, 3, and then we're gonna add our vanilla. Now you can use whatever vanilla you want, but we only need 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. So we'll put that in real quick and then start mixing. Now this is gonna be a really wet dough, so expect it to be wet. We're gonna add a little bit of flour if we need to. We'll see in a minute. So we're gonna turn on our mixer for 2 minutes. Now your mixture will be very moist. So what you wanna do is after the 2 minutes, just sprinkle in a little bit more flour to kind of make it more dough-like, and I'll show you what it looks like in just a second. Okay, so we've got our dough out. We added a little flour. We're gonna take our dough scraper. We're just gonna turn it 50 times to knead it. It's easier with a scraper because it keeps it right off the board. So just 50 times to knead it. You've got it just, you could do it with your hands if you want to, but it is still a little sticky. So the dough scrape, I love the feel of dough. Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. You guys get your kids out here and play with this dough. It's fabulous. Now remember, dough changes with the temperature, with the humidity in the air. And today it's very rainy, so you might need to add a little extra flour just to keep it from being too moist and too sticky. As you can see, it's sticking to my dough board right now. So we're gonna turn it over 50 times just to knead it together, and all that's doing is activating the yeast. Oh my gosh, I'm getting sticky. Activating the yeast, and then we'll show her what we're gonna do next. Okay, we've kneaded it for 50 times, rolled it into a little ball. We're gonna cover it with plastic and let it rest for 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Another little tip is don't wear black in the kitchen when you're working with flour because it gets all over you. Okay, that's okay. I'm just a messy cook, what can you say? But I do have fun. All right, so we're gonna cover it and let it sit right here for 10 minutes, and then we'll be right back. Okay, today we're gonna make 2 types of filling for our Paczkis because you just can't have enough because it's so delicious. So the first one is a custard, an easy, super easy custard filling. What we're gonna do is we're gonna add in 1/4 cup of sugar, 4 tablespoons of cornstarch. Cornstarch just makes things thicker. You can substitute other things for cornstarch, but cornstarch is the easiest. So count with me. 1, I'm counting, 2, 3, and 1 more tablespoon, 4 tablespoons of cornstarch. We're gonna whisk that together. I love these little baby whisks because they're so convenient. We're gonna whisk that together so it's just nice and mixed up, because the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna slowly add in 1 cup of milk. Don't get crazy, don't pour it in all at once. Just slowly add it in because we wanna incorporate it slowly. That way we won't have lumps, okay? So very slowly, we'll start with just a little bit. We'll pour that in. We'll go ahead and mix in. As you can see, we're just mixing in our dry ingredients with the wet, as we always do. Just mix it in a little bit until it comes kind of like a paste. And then we're going to add a little bit more milk. Now this milk doesn't have to be warm, so you can take it right out of your refrigerator, because we're going to warm it up on this little stovetop right here in just a minute. So now that we've got it nice and mixed in, we'll go ahead and incorporate the rest. Pour that in. We'll put it on our burner, which is already nice and warm, and we're going to keep stirring because the last thing we're going to add in is 1 egg yolk. So the egg yolk. So what do you do with the egg whites? Well, we have lots of puppies and our puppy dogs. Every time we crack an egg in this house, the dogs come running because they know there's egg whites available a lot of times. So we're going to put our egg in here. The reason we're using just the egg yolk is we just want the protein of the egg to mix in to make the custard. So that's all there is to making custard. We're going to bring it to a boil, stir it for about a minute, and I'll show you what it looks like after that. Okay, this is the thickened custard. It didn't take long. In fact, it was really, really fast. So all you do is stir that. Now what we want to do is we want to get this chilled. You can't put these in the donuts hot. So this custard has to be chilled. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an old-fashioned type of chilling where you just put it out on a plate. A lot of chefs do this, and you can too. We're just going to put it out on a plate. Remember, the more air that gets to it, the faster it'll chill. And we'll just put it out here like this. We're going to spread it around just a little bit so we can get some more air surface to it. And you can see it's steaming, but we want it to be really room temperature when we add it to our donuts. And then we're going to stick this in the refrigerator real quick, and it'll come back chilled. Now, in the meantime, our buzzer has gone off for our dough. We've got our 10 minutes. We're going to roll it out one more time, and then we're going to let it sit for 45 minutes. So don't be concerned. That's just part of making fantastic bread. I always tell our kids that we cook with, and our adults too, to put a little bit of flour on the side of your board so you've got it ready if you need it. And so we're going to take this and we're going to roll it out. Whoops, and you can tell I've got to get my rolling pin covered with flour too because it is still a little moist on the inside. Don't push too hard, just gently. We're just going to roll it right out to about 1/2 inch. And then we're going to take our 1/2 inch cutter, which is my favorite, a 1/2 pint mason jar that makes the most perfect cuts, and start cutting in just a minute. Okay, we've rolled it out to about 1/2 inch. We're going to put parchment paper on our jelly roll pan or our flat baking pan. Remember, parchment paper is your friend. Boy, this is the best stuff. And we'll just tear off a piece, put it down. This keeps anything from sticking or burning. Trust me, it really does. So we're going to put that down. Before we do that, though, a little tip when you use parchment paper is just put down a little bit of spray baking Pam, and it will make that parchment paper stick right to the pan. You don't have to worry about it flying out when you're working with it. Okay, so now we're going to take our famous cookie cutter that we love. It's just a 1/2 pint circle. It's about 2 inches around. You can use anything. Use a glass. You don't have to have cookie cutters for this. And we're just going to dip this in the flour. Make sure you dip it in the flour because remember the dough is very sticky. And we're going to just cut out a piece and put it right down on our parchment paper, and these are gonna be our donuts. I'm so excited. Okay, so we're gonna keep going. Once we're finished with this, cutting all these out, ooh, that one's got a little irregular shape to it, then we're gonna cover it with a towel, and we're gonna let it sit for 45 minutes and let it rise. It won't rise to double its size, but it will rise enough, and you're gonna see what it looks like. Oh my gosh, it's wonderful. One thing I forgot to mention was you want to take all your scraps and put them together because you can make a few extra of these wonderful Polish donuts. This type of dough you can reuse. There's some doughs that you cannot reuse, and when you reuse them, they just get real flat. So we're gonna go ahead and roll it out to 1/2 inch, just very gently roll it out to 1/2 inch. Take your cutter and go ahead and cut out a couple more, as many as you can, and put them on that tray. And then again, remember, we're going to cover that tray with a cloth and let it rest for 45 minutes. And then we're going to do some wonderful things with butter and sugar. Okay, we have left these to rise for 45 minutes. I'm going to show you what they look like. They definitely have puffed up and they're ready to bake. We're going to bake them at 375 for 10 minutes, and then we're going to have some fun. Our 10 minutes is up. I'm so excited. Oh my gosh. So let's get them out of the oven. Oh my gosh, look how beautiful and puffy they are. Our timer's going off. Let me turn that on. And we are ready. Oh my gosh. So the next step is super easy. We're going to put them out here, and right away we're going to take them off the little parchment paper, and we're going to dust them with, or douse them basically, with butter. So I've got some melted butter here, just a couple of tablespoons, and I'm going to use my silicone little dipper, and we'll paint them. This is the fun part. We're going to paint them with butter. Oh my gosh, how yummy is this? Oh my gosh, they smell delicious. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take a Ziploc bag, and we're going to just put 1/3 cup of sugar in, and we're going to roll them around the sugar. Nice. That sounds so good. So we're just going to drop them in here, toss them around the sugar. So easy. and they come out. The sugar's gonna stick to the butter. Beautiful. Oh my gosh, beautiful. So we're gonna do those to all our little beautiful Polish donuts, and then I'm gonna show you how to fill them up in just a minute. So look how beautiful they are, buttered, covered in sugar, ready to be filled. So I just love my new pastry fillers. It's one I purchased on Amazon. I'll show you a link below. But the reason I love it is it has a special little tube that will go in and fill dough like this. So what you do is you have a silicone bag that you can reuse, which I love. You have these wonderful variety of different tips that you can put in. You take this and put it inside, so whatever you've chosen to use, you put it inside. We're going to put the connector on the top, and then we're just going to trim off the extra bag around the outside so we can use it. We're going to pull it down like this to fill it, which makes it easier to fill. We'll fill it in, and then we'll just squirt it out. So we've already filled this one with raspberry sauce, which is what we're going to fill today. I'm so excited. So we're going to just roll it up. Now the trick to the pastry bag is to twist it at the top so it doesn't goop out the top, and then control it using the other hand. So we're going to take this one. This is the reason I bought this pastry bag, is because of this wonderful tip that you can insert into other things to add a filling to any donuts. So we're going to do this. We're just going to push in the tip. We're going to squirt out what we think is the right amount of raspberry sauce. Hopefully it's going in there. We'll test it in a minute to find out. If it explodes with raspberry sauce, we know it's full, right? So some of it's gone in. Yay! And just to make sure we're doing it correctly, we're going to cut this one open and take a bite, and I'll show you what it looks like inside. Oh, not enough. Okay. Another one, which we're going to try. We're going to put the point inside, and now that we've practiced a little bit, we'll be a little better. So we're going to really squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. So we're going to take a certain amount right here and squeeze it in so we know it's all going in. Let me just twist that off a little bit. Squeeze it in, squeeze it in, squeeze it in. And so we know, and you can see the red starting to fill up on the outside, that our little tiny Polish donut is getting full of fabulous raspberry sauce. Okay, and there it is. Yay! So excited. Can't wait to try it. I'm so excited. Oh my gosh, here's our little Polish donuts that are so delicious. Gluten-free, yes. Yummy in the middle. Oh my gosh. And, oh my gosh, delicious. Thanks so much for coming and sharing with Farmer Larry and I at Fern Valley Farm. Go out and make you something wonderful.